Good morning, everyone. It's beginning of the year, still in our initial week of prayer and fasting, and for the last little while, as I recuperate physically, I've been taking some long walks. Long walks, times of reflection, meditation, endurance. As you can see, beautiful, beautiful trails. So, been rain or shine, snow, ice, sleet, dry ground, but just been coming for coming out and doing some pretty lengthy walks. But yesterday, as I was walking, I flipped the routine a little bit, and something happened. So I was there are some hills and declines on this walk, some pretty steep ones sometimes, and can be challenging when it's icy. And so yesterday, I flipped my route. So I did the reverse of one of my favorite routes. And the reason why I reversed it is because one of the steepest climbs on this walk is at the very end. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to, instead of climbing up that hill at the very end, I'm going to go down it at the beginning. It sounded good in theory. And so I reversed the walk for the first time, and I'm doing that same walk today. But as I was on that walk, I noticed something very, very interesting yesterday is that because I wasn't as familiar with the route, even though I'm familiar with the route, but not coming that way, I saw a shortcut, I got sidetracked, and it ended up taking me, after I had already climbed up, it took me back down to where the actual creek is. And so that meant if you go down, you got to come back up to street level eventually and get back on the main trail. And so, as I'm walking, I'm reflecting, thinking, praying, listening, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me that sometimes shortcuts don't end up truly being shortcuts. So it was twice the effort because I already came all the way up and I had to go back down and come back up, come back at and that was the worst climb of my many walks, was coming back up, and that was all the way at the very end of the walk. And so sometimes the path that seems easiest and shortest is not the path. So sometimes you gotta stick to the path that God has called you on. Stay focused this year. And and one of the other things that I've been learning on these walks is there's more benefit to going uphill. As you can notice right now, my jacket's open. Well, that's because a few minutes ago I went uphill, so I'm still even breathing a little heavier, and I am sweating. On this cold day, I am sweating, so I had to let the heat out. And so the hardest part is going uphill, but it gives you the most physical benefit. Whereas downhill is probably the easiest part, other than if it's icy, but it's the most dangerous because it's a slippery slope. It's the most dangerous because it's the easiest to fall. And so sometimes the things that are the hardest, give you the most results, give you the best results, and sometimes the things that are the easiest are dangerous at times. And this is not universal, but these are just things that I'm meditating on as I'm walking with God in the process. And so in this year, stick to the path that God has given you. Don't make decisions based on what is easier and what is not easier. Make decisions based on the leading and knowing what you should be doing, and stick to it. So God bless you. We're still here in our week of prayer and fasting, and so take this time to add to your prayer with fasting. And the way one of the ways that I look at the intensity of fasting is fasting is like bringing scattered light behind a magnifying glass. And as a child, As a child, you take a magnifying glass and try to set some grass on fire or a sheet of paper on fire, and that's because the light is concentrated. And so when you're in a time of fasting and focus, a time of fasting and focus, I believe that's what our prayers become like. They become a lot more focused and a lot more effective. As Jesus said, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. God bless you. I love you. Thanks for walking with me for a few moments.